Welcome back to Buckets WNBA edition. Here filling in for Jim Turvey. I'm Bryan Fonseca. Joining me is Joe Dellera. We have taken over the episode. This is a hostile takeover of WNBA Buckets episode for the slate of August 26th on Tuesday of 2025. Joe, we have a lot to get into. A whole 2-game slate that is going to be taking place on Tuesday night on the eve of Eurobasket. Okay, so naturally, before we get into tonight's slate, you have any thoughts about what's going on with the WNBA and WNBPA?
I mean,
as a lawyer,
like
I figured I'd ask the question because right now there are reports about we don't know if a deal's going to get done, and this kind of has to get done before the end of the playoffs, which a couple months from now, and we think we'll have a WNBA next season, but a deal has to happen at some point.
A lot of it's posturing, right? Like you have these conversations in the media, and people are like, "Oh, well, like how could they say that?" They're looking at it. I think they were offered some. I don't remember what the details of it were, but basically every player was going to get like 6 figures and still lower end 6 figures. I think what would it start at maybe like 150,000 up to
not much,
whatever it was.
Yeah.
So I mean,
more, but not enough.
Definitely. And I think the thing is, people hear that, and the average person, when you look at median incomes, household incomes, whatever, you look at that and you go, well, that's great. Like you're playing the game that you love, you're a professional athlete, you're going to get some sponsorship opportunities, whatever. But a lot of these girls, whatever term we want to use, women. With these women, you have, I'm so much older than everybody now. I'm just I'm like everybody's like a kid. But they have this opportunity, but the league is still small. They're going through expansion, and we are seeing this massive growth in terms of the revenue and in terms of what the teams are being sold for, what the licensing fees are. And I think that tells more of a story. And I think that is more indicative of the success of the league. People are like, oh, well, they're not running a profit. They haven't run a profit for years, for decades, whatever. There's a lot of leagues that haven't run at a profit for a number of years. Correct. Once they get started. Mm-hmm. So they've been able to get some traction. You can give the credit to whoever you want to give the credit to. But I don't think that really matters. And I don't think the players at the end of the day really care who or why there are more eyes on the league. It just means that also more people are making money. And at the end of the day, I think the conversation really has to go. It's most people in the world are an employee to some degree, right? Whether it's freelance, whether you're a direct employee, maybe you even own your own small business. These are massive corporate conglomerates, right? And the people that are saying, I don't know why you would say you don't want the players to make a little bit more money. Who cares? Why would you not want the employees to make more money? And I think that goes more towards the working class, or so to speak, of the WNBA. That it's not the owners, it's the players. So I don't really understand the whole narrative in the public where people are like, oh, well, why they shouldn't make more money? Have you watched this product? Whatever. Look at the college athletes are not the best at the sport, they're good, but they also make a lot of money too in some of the licensing and things like that with the way college students can make money. So I don't know. I'm very much pro, they should be able to make what they want to make. And I think that teams would pay them. And especially now, it's not even so much that it's about what can happen in the W. There are a variety of other leagues that can pay them more money. And I think that's the thing where it's if you start losing talent to overseas leagues because those leagues can pay more money or significantly more money, then you're never going to have a profitable WNBA. And that's where you would say, all right, maybe it's not really worth it anymore to have it from a financial perspective. So this is a long-winded way of saying there isn't really a competitor for the NBA or for Major League Baseball or for the NFL overseas, but you do see it in soccer. You do see it occasionally with a random NBA player, and they will get brought overseas, maybe towards the end of their career or whatever, because they know they can make a lot more money. The W, it could be the entire league that could go make more money somewhere else. And I think that is the notable part of trying to keep the talent here in the United States.
Yeah, I think the big part of this that a lot of people miss when they say, oh, you know, the league isn't profitable, they shouldn't be able to earn this. And the WNBA players now, and really they always have, this is the whole issue with the salary structure that the league has always had, is you had players not making, like, they have players that make less than like us. You know what I mean? They have players that make like not even not even high five figures.
Yeah.
In some cases, like historically even lower than now. Like they just redid the salary structure a few years ago, and now they're gonna have to do it again. And the WNBA players are not asking for NBA money. I think this is what a lot of dudes are jumping to. Like, oh, they shouldn't get what NBA players get. They're not asking for that. They understand what the NBA generates and what the WNBA generates is different. Now, I'm not going to say the gap is closing, like the WNBA is all of a sudden going to become the NBA, but the WNBA is in a much different place, as you and I know now, as it was before. And no, it's not because of one person, because the entire league had been growing before Caitlin Clark came in and helped accelerate it. And Angel Reese. Angel Reese deserves more credit for this than people would give her. But it's also people who've been here, like Asia Wilson becoming as big of a star she's ever been, bigger star than she's ever been, quite frankly. A very successful sneaker, gonna have another one, by the way. When Juju Watkins gets into the league, that's gonna be something else. Paige Beckers just got here. She's been a superstar legitimately since high school. Like before Caitlin Clark, she was that, but younger, and she just kept getting hurt in college, but she was awesome along the way, and then won a national championship, had the storybook ending. But like Paige Beckers has been that. And a lot of these players, Haley Van Lith even, who's not like a marquee WNBA player yet, as somebody who's been a superstar since high school and has probably raked in a shit ton of money off the court at this point. These women have options, is the point. Unrivaled is one. Also, the reason why they've been going to like play in EuroLeague, for example, and different parts of the world, but Europe being one of the main places, is because they get paid more. Yeah. Now the trade-off is you get like 2 weeks off in a year, maybe, because you're just constantly playing basketball the entire time. And now with the WNBA schedule adding games, like this is what Satsu Sabali was talking about, where like, yo, the schedules become more demanding. It's not really fair. And it's like, yeah, I mean, this year, coincidentally, like the NBA, you're seeing more injuries. I feel like we're seeing more WNBA injuries now. The season's getting longer. They're going to keep adding games, keep adding teams. And if you're adding all this, yes, the players are going to ask for more money, and they're entitled to that, because ultimately you're not going to have a WNBA without the players. And this is a situation where I think they need the players more than the players need the league, because the players can go get money, go have opportunities elsewhere. So it's interesting to see like how this will play out. The players seem to be standing firm, and I have no doubt. And here's the thing. If you, as someone who's been in a union before and avoided a strike by like a few hours, because a lot of these union deals often go down to the wire.
Yeah.
And then a deal gets made like at the 11th hour, or it doesn't. But I believe, and this is what's key in their corner, I believe the WNBA players when they say, hey, like we're prepared to potentially like have a work stoppage. We're prepared to go on strike. And that's what you need. You need that conviction and togetherness to go at the league and be like, hey, this is what it is. So I actually think they have this isn't the NFL where their players union is very weak. This isn't Major League Baseball. This isn't the UFC where they can't get together on anything. You know, they won't advocate for themselves at all. Boxers, etc. Like the WNBA has it appears a real solid union. And I feel like they're going to get more of what they want than people think, but that's just a educated guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think just to kind of go off of that, right? Like the fact that there are other options, I think makes it a very different situation than any other traditional like professional sports league in the United States. Like when we've seen Major League Baseball have like a lockout, the NBA has had a lockout. Those guys really aren't, there's nowhere else for them to go. Like there is no other real alternative league.
And they have more money, a lot of them.
Exactly. Like, and they a lot of them are in a position where they have more, there's a little bit more exposure, like what have you. For the W, I think that the most money they could probably make, I think still would remain in the W, but it's a big game of chicken with these owners, where if they don't, maybe comply, then maybe you start losing some of the top end talent to other leagues, and that's going to dilute the product. So I don't think that that's the way that they want to go. I think at the end of the day, ownership wants the best players in the world to be playing at their peak for the W. And if they aren't able to reach an agreement, then we'll see it. But also this contract's up in like at the end of October. Season doesn't start for a number of months. They have a pretty long time to make and reach an agreement. So I think there's a lot of conversation about it now. At the end of the day, I don't think this lockout's going to happen until, really after the season anyway. And I think that's going to kind of drag this out. But they are trying to get as much, media time and commentary in front of the public now while they still can.
All right, let's get to tonight's slate. We have the Seattle Storm, the Indiana Fever. Line is 2.5 in that one, favoring the Seattle Storm. And then you have the Phoenix Mercury at the LA Sparks. I'm actually seeing a 3.5 that just popped for the Seattle Storm. And that this one for the Mercury and Sparks, it was 4.5. I'm seeing 3.5 now with the Mercury favorite. So both road teams favored in this contest. Over under for the first game, 163.5. Over under for game 2, 173.5. Tip offs at 7 and 10 p.m. Eastern time, respectively. So that means there won't be any interference and overlap, at least for tonight. So, Joe, what do we like on Storm versus Fever? We'll start there first.
I mean, I think we're both pretty aligned here. I'm going to be on Dominique Malonga over 11.5 points.
Yeah, and I have the exact same play. And then for the Mercury and the Sparks, I only really like Rickea Jackson over 1.5 threes, and I might sniff that third 3-pointer. She's been getting them up as of late. Do you have anything in this game?
I mean, Copper's been awesome against the Sparks this year. So 12 points, then 24, 25. But that's something I got to look into a little bit more. Nothing like super stood out right away. And, it's a short slate. I know that we always want action on, the entire window of games, the 7 o'clock and the 10 o'clock game, but I couldn't pull the trigger on anything right yet.
Okay, let's go with Malonga because it's going to take up much of our time. As Jim knows, I've been, as a matter of fact, let me back up. I texted Jim Turvey yesterday, who's obviously a friend of ours. And I said, talk me out of betting Dominique Malonga for MVP 2026, assuming that we don't have a lockout. I've been on the Dominique Malonga train, bandwagon, whatever, since before, like, I'm 2-3 years ago at least. Because she's just going to be a monster. And I said this year, this is going to be about highlights. Just can you give us highlights before hopefully being more consistent next year with a more consistent role, consistent minutes, and all these different things. We're over her on 11.5 points. She has had over 11.5 points in 6 of her last. No, actually, it's better than that.
No,
8
it's better,
of her, 8 of her last 10 games. And you could even go back and do 9 of her last 12. It's just been ridiculous. Like, it's putting it all together. You could even go back further than that and go 11 out of, at that point, I think that's 15. But it's a ridiculous stretch ever since just sort of popping off, getting the minutes, and now more consistently. I wish she did it earlier because my fantasy team wouldn't be eliminated from our playoffs. But I think she's awesome. I think she's getting more minutes. I can't wait to see her in a playoff series, assuming that the Storm end up getting there. And I like this matchup for her as well. I think this is a good matchup for her. So over 11.5. And I'm going to sniff around the 15 points at plus money, plus 180 I'm seeing right now. I don't know if I'm going to go to 20, but that 15 is definitely in play. She has 15 or more in 3 straight.
Yeah. I mean, the toughest thing with her has been the minutes. Like, the coaching decisions around her minutes are asinine, to say the least. I think that's putting it politely, honestly. She's fantastic. She's been so good this season, I think, when she's had the opportunity. And to put it in perspective, even in terms of, like, if you wanted to look at hit rate, I don't know if that matters as much as, like, the minutes and, like, what the usage winds up being in those minutes. But, like, when she's played 15 minutes this season, she's hit this in 77% of games. If you bump it to 20 minutes, it's 100%, and she's 6 for 6 on the line. So now, over the past couple of games, we've been able to see her play a little bit more minutes. We were seeing a couple games in the mid 20s, upper 20s, the last two. So hopefully that trend kind of continues here. But even if we are on a little bit of a decrease, I still think the 11.5 is fine. I like the opportunity here. I think that she's really started to show out. She's a really young player too. She's a really young rookie. She's 19 years old. She's still a teenager. And I think that that's one of the things that at the beginning of the season, if you kind of look at the season as a whole, she was never hitting this line, never really getting the opportunity. It seems like she's kind of garnered a little bit of trust more lately with the uptick in minutes. Even though we are seeing some spikes, some lows, I feel pretty confident in a 15-minute floor for her, and I like the opportunity here. I think it's going to be a pretty good matchup for her against Indiana.
In terms of minutes, 28 last game, 30 before that. Less than 20 before that, like just over 19, still got the 15 points, still got 13 shots in those 19 minutes. That's as many shot attempts as she's had in basically all these games other than the 17 last game, 17 in just 28 minutes. So you are seeing more minutes there. You haven't seen her get under 15. You mentioned 15 being sort of the sweet spot there. You feel like you can get enough volume because she's been one of those players like there's some players who they'll come off the bench and then they'll just get all the usage, and which is often a good move. There was actually a player like this. This is a pull that is going to be for like two people.
It's gonna be crazy.
Iona used to do this with Jordan Washington in the mid 2010s when Iona was going to the NCAA tournament often. He was one of these bigs who was like 6'7", 6'8". They'll put him in and he'll get 16 points in 22 minutes. Like averaging like every game, and it was just I don't know why he didn't play more, but it's just certain people are like that. Like you want to use him in spurts. And Malonga, as you mentioned, is very young. Like when you're coming from overseas, you can enter the draft at 20. When you're coming out of the WNBA draft, you have to be 22. Dumb rule. I think that's another thing that the CBA should probably look at. But Malonga, regardless, I think she's gonna be awesome. And I think this is a good matchup for her. If it's an under, it's just because could be minutes, could be not getting in rhythm, lack of maybe just touches. You know what I mean? One of those games, like obviously, she's gonna have her hands full in the paint, given that Aaliyah Boston will be waiting for her, among others. So I think that's going to be a fascinating matchup, assuming she even gets to play the starters, which she should, given the minutes she's gotten recently. Of note, Caitlin Clark participated in a shoot around over the weekend and went through some non-contact drills. So not even full contact yet, not anticipating that she's going to play. And the Fever have a whole list of other injuries, including now Sophie Cunningham and obviously Sydney Colson, Ari McDonald, and Chloe Bibby. And as far as the Seattle Storm, just Katie Lou Samuelson out. So no surprises there. Okay. Mercury Sparks will do this and then we'll get out of here. I like Rickea Jackson over 1.5 threes. Rickea Jackson, this is juice. This is like minus 140-ish. So my limit is probably 50, 55, something like that. But she's just killing this number. She's got it in 8 straight games. And it's like, I don't want to not play it. Now 3 threes you can get at plus money. I think that's worth a look as well, because in these 8 games where she's gotten 2 or more 3-pointers, she's gotten 3 or more in 5 of them, including 3 straight, 6 in the last game. And it's the attempts. When I'm playing 3-point props, I care about the attempts. 5 or more in all these games. So you're telling me she needs to go at least just 2 for 5. If I'm getting 5 attempts, I love somebody getting 2. Especially when they've been doing that consistently. So Rickea Jackson's been scoring more effectively as of late after a uneasy start to the season. Somebody that people have been waiting for to sort of, okay, is she going to take a definitive step? This season, you're starting to see it over her last 15 games, averaging north of 17 points, also shooting 41% from 3 during that stretch, and over real volume, 5.4 threes per game, getting 33 minutes a game as well, since we like the minutes. So any thoughts on that play? Because I'm going with it.
No, I like it too, and especially if you consider the pace, right? Both of these teams are top 3 in pace. The Sparks are 2, and the Mercury are 3rd. So I think there's plenty of opportunity for extra possessions here, extra shots up, and I think I'm going to tail you on this over 1.5 threes.
To recap, I like Rickea Jackson over 1.5 threes, potentially 3+ at plus money as well. We both like Dominique Malonga over 11.5 points, and we probably like her at 15 plus points if you can get a nice number. There's a 180 out there. If you can get a 200, that's even better. I do feel like this line is going to see some movement by the time this drops. So if you could still get 11.5, even 12.5, we both like that. And if you can get the 15 at a nice number, we probably like that too. So those are our bets. Make sure that you download the award-winning Action Network app for these plays. You can tail your favorite bettors and analysts on the app. Hopefully you're tailing some of what we put out there. We're going to have a bunch of stuff obviously coming up, not just with the W, but with Eurobasket and also with the NFL and college football back in effect. And obviously after that, we'll see the NHL. We'll get some bets on the NBA. And right now, ongoing as you're listening to this, the US Open is officially underway. So there's a lot to choose from on the Action Network app. Go download that. It is award-winning, and it is obviously a fun time to sort of track your picks on it. For Joe Dellera, I'm Bryan Fonseca. We'll be back on Buckets WNBA edition later this week. Take care.